All right, guys, it's time to do some benchmarking. Let's go.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. So in the last couple of videos, I talked about that move from Mac to PC, or possible move from Mac to PC. I was building a machine that all of us can use, and the idea was getting a machine that would be under $2,000 that we can render video 1080p, maybe even 4K video. We could do gaming on the side if we wanted to, but keeping it below that $2,000 mark. Now, I put together a system. If you haven't watched the last couple of videos, go take a look. I list all of the parts that I use. I also list pricing and why I purchased those specific products so that you understand what my rationale is in creating this. Now, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go straight into benchmarking, and this is what you guys have been waiting for. You wanna know how does this system fare? How does it work in comparison to other systems? And especially, how does it work in comparison to my old i7 Mac that I've been using for quite some time? So let's go take a look at my screen here. Now you can see here I have open, I have Cinebench R15. I also have CPU IDs, HW Monitor. That is a great program for me to monitor core temperatures as well as fan speeds and core voltage and whatnot. It's a really good package for that. I also have CPU Z. That is a benchmarking package. I've used that. And then we have OCCT. Now that I use for stress testing. I use OCCT as well as the LinPack CPU stress tests that are built into this package. They work out phenomenal. Every time I take the CPU and bump it up in gigahertz, I always stress test it, because the bottom line here is, guys, we want a fast machine, but the machine needs to be stable. So I push it up as far as it can go at a specific volt, and as soon as it fails, I'll drop it down a little bit or add a little bit volts to the CPU. Underneath that, you'll see Link. This is a really cool piece of software. It came with my Corsair, the H110i. That is the water-cooled system that I ended up going with for this computer. And this is an awesome package. It gives you real-time readouts on fan speed, on temperatures throughout the case. That is an actual inside picture of my case, and I was able to take these overlays and stick them exactly where they are inside the case so that I know what temperatures are real time. So let's go and start out with some benchmarking. Now, 3D Mark is a nice benchmark, whereas it does both CPU intensive as well as GPU intensive benchmarking. Now, this specific benchmark called Time Spy, I feel that it is more GPU specific because of the rating that we're getting. We're getting a 6,221, which isn't bad. That is on the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070 that we have in here. Now, bear in mind, if you watched the other video, or if you haven't, I spoke about getting a 1070 instead of a 1080 or a 1080 Ti or something, which costs double. But it's more for like gaming. You know, you're gonna get higher frame rates, but for what we do, this I think is the best bang for the buck. Just over $300, it's a really good value. So now taking a look at the benchmark here, our score here at that 6,221 is coming in at better than 72% of the community, of all the people out there. That's not bad. Now let's go and move into another benchmark from 3D Mark. And you'll see here, we're getting a score of 40,233. The same GPU, the same CPU, gigahertz rating of 3.925. Everything is the same, but look at where we're at, guys. We're sitting at 98th percentile. That is awesome. We are smoking it on this specific benchmark. This is really good. I'm very happy with this specific score. Now, my thoughts on this score is probably what it's doing is it's doing not only GPU, but it's also utilizing the CPU. And since our CPU is an 8-core, 16-thread, it's able to use that, and you can definitely see it in this benchmark. So now, moving on, let's go into Cinebench. I love Cinebench. Every time I do anything with the CPU's core, I'm always going into Cinebench to see how it's faring. Now, as you can see here, we are with this AMD Ryzen 7 1700 8 core. You can see the gigahertz, it's 3.92 gigahertz, on and on and on. We are hitting a big 1,772 score. That is awesome, guys. That is a really strong score. And as you can see here, I want you to kind of take a look at the bottom. I started out benchmarking. You can see all of these benchmarks. Numbered line 20 here, number 20. This is also the CPU, but in its stock form. It is at 3.0 gigahertz and it gives us a 1400 score. That is still a really good score, guys. But as you can see, as I went up from 3 gigahertz to 3.7, 3.75, 3.8, 3.9, you can see how these scores continuously got up. As you can see here at 4.0 gigahertz, it's actually a little bit slower than our 3.9. That's when we were hitting kind of our limit. So I backed it down just a little bit. So as I said, right now at that 3.9 current settings, it's really stable. Now let me go and also move into the GPU on this specific benchmark, which is Cinebench. Now our GPU is doing 100.88 frames per second. That is nice. That is not bad. Now once again, this is a 1070, guys. If you had a 1080 or 1080 Ti, you would be at like 140, maybe even 170 frames. Now once again, I wanted to make sure that we were in budget. And at 100 frames or 101 frames per second, I think you guys can game all day long and be very happy with that number. Now this is Cinebench R15, but on a community-wide base. So it shows my CPU as well as my Mac CPU on here and others in the community. So this is current as of June 2017. So as you can see in light blue, this is our Ryzen overclocked. And it is kicking at a 1,776. That is awesome, guys. Now, what I want you to be aware of on this chart is if we come down here, so you see this i7 870? This is my iMac. Now, compare that to the 1776. It is literally over 3 times, according to this benchmark, faster. So this is where I was coming from, and now this over here at 1776 is where we're going. Do these synthetics match with reality? We don't know, but we're going to soon find out. What I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to overlay some pricing on top of this so that you get an idea on what the cost is. Now check this out, guys. So the cost of our Ryzen 7 1700 overclock is $300, right around $315. Somewhere around there. Right below us is the Ryzen 1800. It costs $500, but we're overclocking, right? So we're actually passing the standard 1800, which costs a lot more. Now, very interesting here is if you go down to the very bottom, and you see an i7 7700K. That is what a lot of people would say, buy that if you're a gamer. And I agree with that. That is basically on equal footing. It's a 4-core compared to our 8-core, but it does a really good job at gaming. It cannot compare to our Ryzen setup when it comes to editing, when it comes to total amount of threads, total speeds at multitasking, right? It's getting a score of 966 compared to our 1776. Now look right above that. For $2,000, you can get a 1680, right? And look at the score that it's getting, 1204. You can go above that and maybe get a Xenon E5, one of the new version 2s, a 2690, and fork out $2,300 for the CPU alone, just for the CPU. And that is only getting you a 1476. What a difference, right? So let's move over to CPU-Z. Now, this is another one of our benchmarks that we used, and here, once again, we're looking at the community to see what our score is compared to the community. Now, right down here, ours are light blue. You can see our overclock here at 4845, and you can see our standard clock at 3905. Now, that's a good score, right? So as you can see here, I listed how many cores and how many threads. And so on this list, I got a lot of upper level, not a quad core. So you're not gonna see the 7700 in this list. As you can see, we're really getting up there to the top of the list. But now watch what happens when I go ahead and overlay pricing onto this. Now things get serious, guys. So for our $300, it's giving us that 4,845. Now look right above it. At 5,085, you can get an Intel Core i7 6950X. But the CPU alone costs $1,400, guys. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And then below that, you can see E5 2690 at $2,300 or the 2670 at $1,900. Bear in mind, right above us at that $1,400 range, do you notice that they have 20 threads going? That is a 10-core processor that we're literally only 200 points away from. I mean, that is unbelievable. So what we're able to accomplish by overclocking this AMD Ryzen 7 is just phenomenal when it comes to threads, to core, to multi-processing, right? So let's move on. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is what you guys have been looking for. What is the real world? We look at synthetic, it looks fantastic. Well, now what does real world give us? Now, what I did was, from our last vlog that I did, I took a 2-minute and 43-second video clip, raw. Okay, it's 1080p, 60 frames per second. I dropped it on the timeline in Premiere on the new PC, and then I also took that file and dropped it in Premiere on my Mac, okay? And then I just hit export. I didn't do anything. There's no color grading, no transitions, no nothing. Just as it is, and I let it run. I let it export. So on my Mac, the 2-minute and 43-second video took 6 minutes and 19 seconds to export. That is not a 1:1, a 1:2, that's like a 1:4 ratio. It's crazy. With the PC, that same 2-minute and 43 seconds ended up exporting in 1 minute and 45 seconds. So let me convert that into seconds. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to see. So the 163-second video took 379 seconds with my old Mac, whereas with the new PC, the 163 seconds took only 105 seconds to export. That is less than a 1:1 ratio. That is fast, guys. That is a total of 360% faster. So these synthetic benchmarks are pretty dead on. They were saying that we were going to be about 4 times faster, and we're seeing a 3.5 times real world speed difference. Now, what's important here, guys, is we're looking at an older machine, so it's hard to compare the older machine to the new. But looking at those benchmarking numbers in the synthetic world, you will know that those will end up coming to pass when you're going through real world testing. Those numbers don't lie. A 1776 compared to other processors that are like 10 core that are only getting a few points higher than it means that we are really getting our best bang for our buck. So I said I was going from a Mac to a PC, and I gave reasons why in a couple of videos ago, and a lot of it had to do with price and the power to price ratio, right? The value that you get for your money. So I went and built a identical machine, but in a Mac platform with all the same specs. So we're gonna go with a 3.0 gigahertz, because that's the same as we have with our Ryzen. Let's go and up this to 32 gigs of RAM. All right, we have a 256 gig SSD, that will be the same. We'll leave that alone. We don't need a mouse, we don't need keyboard, no software, we're good. So we have a grand total here of $4,400, right? For the exact same specs. I don't know about you guys. $1,700 for this. Let's call it $1,800 by adding in the liquid cooled that we did for this machine. Let's call it $1,800. $1,800 to $4,400. $1,800, $4,400. I mean, I can literally buy 2 of these machines for the same cost as one of these Mac Pros. And that's why I decided to go and give this a shot, because I just don't see it, guys. So if we're not getting more value for our money, then what is the purpose of just spending money? And that's what happens here is with the Mac setup, you're literally spending a lot more money and you're not really getting a lot out of it. So in conclusion, everything is not a bed of roses. Let me tell you, for the last 2 weeks, I've done a lot of work with this, a lot of overclocking, a lot of twisting and turning and pulling and pushing. So I've really put it through its paces. There's a couple of things that are bothering me. Number one, I still don't like that the BIOS doesn't support memory above 2400. Yes, you can get there, and people have got there to 26, 3000, 3200 and whatnot, doing base clock, overclocking, and all kinds of other stuff, but you need more expensive motherboards. Until we can take a lower end motherboard and do overclocking of RAM up there, I would say if you guys are going Ryzen, AMD Ryzen 7, make sure you just get memory that goes up to maybe 2400. That's a good sweet spot right now. Now the difference between 2400 memory and 3200 is maybe 5, 10, 15%. It's not a lot to really worry about, let's just say, as of right now. Once they make the fixes, if you want to go and spend money on some more expensive RAM, maybe even 4000, we'll go ahead and do that. But for right now, 2400 is the sweet spot. Also, the system itself, every once in a while, maybe once a day, it'll just be sitting there doing nothing on the desktop. It'll shut off, just like that. I have not a clue why. I'm gonna call ASUS on it and see what they have to say about it. It could be a BIOS thing. Who knows? Remember, these motherboard BIOS, literally, it's only a few months old. It's almost like beta. It's not really beta, but it's only been out for a short period of time. So they're continuously putting these micro patches out there. So I constantly download the latest BIOS to make sure that I'm up to date. And at every time there's a new BIOS revision, it does fix little problems here and there. So all in all, it's not all, you know, this big sea of roses, but I tell you what, dollar for dollar, this is by far the best, absolutely the best editing as well as rendering, any type of creative process, doing photo editing system for the money out there, hands down. I guarantee you. So what I want you guys to do is put any kind of questions that you have about this in the comments below. The community is just absolutely amazing. You guys and all of your positive feedback, I can't even tell you. I would like to do just like a show on calling out all of these people that have just said all these positive things about the channel, about how I'm conducting it, how I'm actually doing it. And I mean, you guys are really loving it, and I appreciate that. That really helps me out a lot. It brings me up a little bit. It elevates me and it makes me want to do more. So I really appreciate you guys. And that's why I do what I'm doing. I'm putting the hours in to kind of help you guys out. Like I said, I built this machine for me, but I'm also building it for you. So once again, all of the parts that I've put into this specific machine will be in the comment area or will be in the description area below. So go down there, take a look. If you click on any of those Amazon links, it'll take you right to that specific product, so you don't have to go find it. It also will help me out a lot. So go and do that. Also, if you enjoyed the content, please give me a thumbs up. That is awesome. I know YouTube, they like all those thumbs up and they rate the videos differently and they kind of elevate them a little bit when you give thumbs up. So please do that. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down too. I'm okay with it, but please thumbs up if you like it. Also subscribe to the channel so you can get all of my crazy rants and raves and my how-tos, tips, tricks, and all the rest of the stuff that I do on a timely manner. When I release them, you'll immediately be notified of them. And don't forget to head over to my website, jchristina.com, where you can find a lot of photography tools that I've invented for photographers just like you. So that's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. I will see you in the next one. Take care.